Mm. How's it going, everybody? YouTube Live, good morning. This is Friday, May 10th, noon. And I just remembered that I have to make a phone call to one of my family relatives this afternoon. That just like hit me right now. Okay, I am here to give you my live review of today's Doom Patrol Season 1, all new episode 13, titled Flex Patrol. Heads up, as always, I'll be spilling some spoilers. So I'm going to give you the plot synopsis, or more like the context, if you will, and then give you my thoughts about them. And yeah, and also recapping some of what happened last week. So, again, spoiler alert, you've been warned. This video contains spoilers. Okay, so last week was my favorite episode, as I mentioned to you, because it showed them as a team breaking into the ant farm to get Vic out with the help of Silas Stone, of course. So I was like, yeah, right. Finally, an episode that's not about character-driven, existential, introspective stuff. Like it's just them working together, busting Vic out, and that one scene where they uh, they release all the prisoners, Doom Patrol, and apparently one of the prisoners, because this is the Bureau of Normalcy, right? So they have a lot of weird stuff in their jail cells, and apparently the one that one of them that got released was the butts, the butts, literally butts, attacking the Bureau of Normalcy. Oh my god, I was cracking up during that scene. Okay, so uh today's episode pretty much picks up where that leaves off. Uh but it explores more on the guy that's in the cell um next to Vic. In this present day, he's in the cell next to Vic. But in the past, as this episode shows, he's in the jail cell next to um, Larry Trainer when Larry was one of the test subjects of the Bureau of Normalcy. So it turns out that this guy, the guy with the beard and the long hair and massive size, turns out he is Flex Mentallo. He's the guy that that's on the comic books that Danny the Street gave Vic as a clue or as a hint. Now, again, just want to give you a heads up. I did not grow up reading Doom Patrol comic books. I'm still learning as I go. So when it comes to Doom Patrol, I am more just a fan of the show only. All right, just a fan of the series. So Flex Mentallo, I don't know if it's from the comic books or what his origin was in the comic books. If it's different from the one in this show today, I have no idea. But so I'm just approaching this from the angle of a fan of the show. Oh, hey, what up, Robert? Robert is here, everybody. Robert is one of the supporters of Rama Screen Channel. Robert says he's having ramen in Claremont. Hey, enjoy your ramen, brother. Enjoy your ramen. Okay, so where was I? But before we get to Flex Mentallo, there's a couple of other things also that happen in this episode. So Crazy Jane teleports them back to the mansion, and Crazy Jane teleports Vic and Silas to the hospital along with Rita, and so Rita keeps Vic company as as Silas is in coma. So in this part of the episode, um, while Vic is with his dad, Rita has a moment with one of the patients in the hospital, and guess who plays that patient? Ed Asner. Ed Asner, the legendary Ed Asner. You probably know him best as the voice of Carl Fredricksen in Pixar's movie Up. By the way, this year is the 10th anniversary of Pixar's movie Up. It's my favorite Pixar movie ever. So he guest stars in this episode as this frail old man. It's like, oh, I can't find my room. And so Rita has a conversation with him, And in this part of the episode, Rita reveals to Ed Asner's character the story about the baby. Because remember, my fellow Doom Patrol fans, throughout this season, we've seen this thing that's been haunting Rita Farr, and that thing is this sight or an image of a cradle. Um, well, not necessarily cradle. What do you call it? A stroller, baby stroller. And of course, you hear the baby crying, the sound of baby crying from it. And so we saw that in previous episodes, kind of flashing in and out. And every time it showed up, Rita Farr got scared or got anxious, and we wondered what happened there. What happened there? And I thought, as a fan of the show, I don't know if it's if this thing is from the comic books or not, but I was assuming that in the past, because Rita Farr is pretty much immortal, and since she got infected by that power of hers, the blob power, Elastigirl power, and I thought that that baby was her baby in the past, like an illegitimate baby or some sort, like that she abandoned when she got cursed by that power. She left the baby. I thought that was I thought that was I thought that was the baby. That was her baby. I thought the story was gonna take her to trying to find her child, kind of like Cliff Steele, trying to when at one point he was trying to, or he was missing his daughter, kind of thing. But no, no. Turns out the story is slightly different, and it's more centered toward her career. She tells this story about this producer that hooks her up with gigs, but in return, she hooks him up with women. And so one of those women got pregnant, and of course, her career was ruined because back in the 1930s, 40s, actresses who are pregnant, let alone have babies, Hollywood won't hire them. Unfortunately, that was back then. Hollywood was just so horrid, man. They call it the golden age of Hollywood, but the way Hollywood treated women, especially as Rita mentioned, and she's right, because I've done some digging too. Like, once a woman hits a certain age, that's it. She won't get roles anymore. In this day and age, we've seen more diversity in TV shows and movies, not just in terms of colors or backgrounds and ethnicity or religion, but also in terms of size and age. So, but back then, man, you have to be a certain standard, have a certain look, if you're a woman, especially, because once you hit mid 30s, 40s, unlike men who are considered like wine, the myth is that we get better with age. Women are not considered that way, and so Hollywood would kick them to the curb once they hit a certain age. Unfortunately, that's the practices back then. And but Rita, the way she hangs on to her career, as she says in the story, is by feeding this producer with women. And so one of the women got pregnant, and she lost her career, of course, because of that. And Rita Farr finds out later on that that woman kills herself, and, there's no knowledge of what happened to the baby, to that woman's baby. And so Rita has been really keeping this guilt forever, for years, for decades. It was weighing on her. And so in this scene, it, it's fascinating, that it's just April Bowlby, the actress who plays Rita, telling Ed Asner what happened. There's no flashback detailing or flashback illustrating or showing exactly what happened. There's no characters playing the producer. There's no character playing the woman. No, it's just Rita and Ed Asner sitting together side by side, and Rita telling the story. And I love that. I love that. The director of this episode, actually, I actually know the director of this episode. His name is TJ Scott, and he has directed many television shows, including Gotham, Spartacus, Star Trek Discovery. He's one of the most, um, I guess you could say, most employed, most hired TV directors around. When TV shows need a director for their episodes, TJ Scott will be one of the names on their Rolodex. So I love that he chose to, like, you know what, we're just gonna go with April Bowlby, you know, memorizing all that long ass line and really capture Rita's sadness and regret and guilt. And my God, April Bowlby knocks that scene out of the park. Wow. Um, I've been a big fan of April Bowlby since Two and a Half Men, for obvious reasons, because she looks hot and she's been hot forever. Um, but her talent shines through even more in this in this, even more so in this episode than ever before. Wow. So kudos to April Bowlby. That I love that scene in today's episode. Of course, obviously, Ed Asner gets revealed to be Mr. Nobody at the end of it. But that does not take away from Rita or April Bowlby's Rita Farr shiny moment. Fantastic, fantastic scene. All right, so back to Flex Mentallo. So Flex Mentallo, this episode lets you in on who Flex Mentallo is. It shows the past, him and his wife, and how he gets captured by the Bureau of Normalcy. And in the past, when Larry Trainer was one of the test subjects, um, Flex Mentallo, in the early days of the ant farm, his room is next to Larry Trainer's. And so there are a couple of moments when Flex tries to get Larry's negative radioactive energy to help him out to bust out of Ant Farm. But Larry kept like, "Oh no, I can't," because by this point, Larry's spirit pretty much has been broken by the Bureau of Normalcy. Larry feels hopeless. Larry feels scared, discouraged. Larry feels like, if I even try, it's gonna fail. So it's really sad that they have their chances to escape, with the help of Flex Mentallo and Flex Mentallo's power. He has fantastic powers, by the way, not just strength, but telekinetic as well. And yet Larry says, "No, I can't," like a whiny little, So that's the past. And then, of course, Bureau of Normalcy apparently holds Flex Mentallo's wife captive. And so Flex Mentallo's like, fine, fine, do whatever you want to do to me. Just, don't hurt my wife. In the present day, so that's the flashback of his origin story. In the present day, Flex with Doom Patrol, Cliff Steele, and Crazy Jane, and they try to get his memory back. Because remember, Flex Mentallo has been cooped up in that room for decades watching nothing but soap operas. And I think we can all agree, if you watch only soap operas 24/7, your brain will be fried, my friend. Your brain. I know. I'm being too harsh on soap operas. I love some soap operas. I love telenovelas, but it's like too much of a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have just that as your breakfast, lunch, and dinner in terms of TV viewing. That's not healthy for you. Um, so that's that for all those years. That's the only thing that's being fed to his brain, and so Cliff and Crazy Jane try crazy ways to to revive his memory so he can remember again. And Larry comes up with this, like, "Oh, I know," because by this time Larry remembers. Oh, he's the guy that is in the room next to me or next to mine back in the day. And I remember he has a wife. So Larry's like, "We gotta find Dolores," and then Crazy Jane teleports, finds Dolores, and Dolores gets reunited with Flex Mentallo. Unfortunately, that does not end well. So I'm giving you all this context. So what are my thoughts? Today's episode, um, gotta give credit. I already spoke about the Rita Farr thing, so that those are my thoughts. But about Flex Mentallo, gotta give credit to Devon Long. I think that's the name of the actor who plays Flex Mentallo. Dude, dude, Devon, you are freaking ripped, man. Dude. I need to work out at your gym, bro. Devon looks like a specimen out of a lab. Jeez, I don't. I think even Captain America would be jealous of Devon. And the fact that Devon wears that uh, leopard tart spandex shorts, I guess you call it, and the way that he's all tanned, like orangey tan, it reminds me like Devon, Devon's character Flex Mentallo, or Devon as Flex Mentallo would be or could be perfect as like the giant man, show that like that show from old days carnival, like 1920s, 1930s. They would have like strongman, caveman. That could be Flex Mentallo's gig. So that so credit where credit's due. Wow, whoa, look marvelous, man. Look marvelous. Um, it's heartbreaking. The end to this episode after the reunion of Dolores and Flex Mentallo. It, I mean, it reminds us once again of the ruthlessness of Mr. Nobody, and the writers really want you to know that Mr. Nobody has no empathy and he toys with people's feelings. Um, you can say, hey, that the Bureau of Normalcy is the one that causes the death of Dolores. But my counter argument to that is that this would not have happened, if if Mr. Nobody doesn't pull the strings. Like at the end, you can say Mr. Nobody pretty much watches everything, all their moves. He even watches Rita Farr through Ed Asner. Um, man, I we only have 2 episodes left, and yet I can't for the life of me wreck my brains to figure out how on earth Doom Patrol is gonna overcome, let alone defeat Mr. Nobody. Mr. Nobody seems so invincible. Like, how do you defeat that kind of person, that kind of villain? Um, Another thought also, the what I noticed or what I observed from this episode is the process of Cliff Steele and Crazy Jane trying to make um, Flex Mentallo remember again. That process for that brief moment, you can tell there's a father daughter kind of moment there going on because Cliff Steele um, wants to make sure that Crazy Jane is still not upset with the fact that Cliff Steele, previous episodes before, had gone into Crazy Jane's underground or head. And and in this episode, Cliff Steele says to Crazy Jane, "Hey, I know I should not have done that. I should not intrude, and I know that there are some stuff in the underground or in your head that you probably don't want me to find out, but I did, and so I want to make sure that you're okay, and I'm sorry that happened." And Crazy Jane, without really saying I accept your apology, because Crazy Jane doesn't roll that way, you could tell that Crazy Jane appreciates it, and I love that. That to me sounds like, if, for example, if a dad or if a father stumbles into or takes liberty to enter his daughter's room and then reads her journal and finds out some shit in the journal, shocked. And of course, the daughter finds out that her dad, enters her room without her permission and reads her journal. So it's equivalent to that in my opinion. Like, wow, you're in my head. You're in, you read my journal. You're in my underground. So and the dad would say like, hey, I know, I'm sorry, I should not have done that. There's some stuff. So I like that, because throughout this whole season one, we've been like being teased. We've been being teased with this potential father daughter moment, but of course, Crazy Jane always like goes on temper tantrum, and Cliff Steele, whatever his effort, it failed. So now episode 13, after 13 episodes, we finally get to see some tiny bit of what could appear as a connection, or at least an understanding, all right, between them, instead of just or both of them yelling at each other. I like that. I really like that. So um when it comes to Larry Trainer, at one point Larry Trainer wants to separate himself from the radioactive in him. And in this episode, we see the radioactive like, you know what? Okay, we'll go our separate ways. But then the radioactive thing comes back into Larry Trainer again, after Larry Trainer, obviously, without that thing in him, his biological state would catch up, 60 years, and then so he would be dying. That's why he was coughing blood in this episode. Um, but that also is another thing, just like Cliff Steele and Crazy Jane coming to an understanding, or at least an appreciation, if you will, for each other. The same happens to Larry and this thing in him. Um, that thing is like, you know what? We've been together for far too long. You know, let's stick to each other. Like last episode, there's a moment where Larry could just leave that thing in the ant farm, but he takes it with him anyway. So yeah, after 13 episodes, finally between Cliff and Crazy Jane, and between Larry and his radioactive thing, they reach, all four of them reach a level of something nice, something warm. Whereas Rita Farr in the hospital, she has her own moment too. That's just so she owns up to her mistake. That's the thing, man. That's deep. That's profound. A lot of us think that we can just move forward without having to deal with the past. I when they say like move forward, yeah, yeah, that's all fine and dandy. Move on and let's get the future. But if you don't make peace, if you haven't made peace with your past, or even if you haven't owned up to what you did in the past, man, that thing is gonna haunt you, man. I know what that feels like. And there's some stuff that I still need to reconcile too. We all do in our own way. And so in this episode, for Rita Farr moment, man, I love that. That's profound. I'm surprised that Mr. Nobody is the one that pushes that to happen though, through Ed Asner. And by the end of this episode, it's revealed that Mr. Nobody has been watching them all along. And just like Mr. Nobody says, it's like, God, after 13 episodes of just character driven introspection, existential soul journey, finally we're gonna get to see a superhero show. And you know what, Mr. Nobody, I concur. I concur. Thanks for breaking the fourth wall for us. That's hilarious. But I could not agree more. We only have 2 episodes left, and then Swamp Thing arrives. And I hope these remaining 2 episodes of Doom Patrol will be back to being about them being a team again, trying to take down Mr. Nobody, and in the process finding Chief. I don't know how. Again, as I said to you, Mr. Nobody is that powerful, but now they have Flex Mentallo. Flex Mentallo will be helping them out. After Dolores dies, Flex Mentallo is obviously so pissed. He even like flexes in his anger. Dude, oh my god, the direction in this episode is fantastic, and I love some of the creative choices especially when Flex flexes his muscles in anger, and all the light bulbs burst. Man, it's shocking yet beautiful. Like I can't keep my eyes off of it. It was nicely done. Great job by TJ Scott, the director. So another fantastic episode. Oh my god, 2 episodes left. I'm gonna miss Doom Patrol. It's gonna be a while till season 2, but I'm also excited for Swamp Thing. So, what do you guys think? If you have seen today's Doom Patrol new episode, do you agree or disagree with my assessment? What did I miss out on? What kind of bullet points did I overlook? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Let's wrap this.